Hey everyone, and welcome to Career Quest. Today I'm speaking with David Earnhardt, who works for University of North Carolina, Asheville, and he is the Associate Director for Employer Relations. And David, so glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming and joining us for this conversation. One thing that I know about your work, because I've listened, is that you have a podcast, and I really want to hear a little bit more about that podcast and some of the people and guests you've had on that podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. It's a great. It's one of the joys of my job is to be able to do the podcast. So I appreciate that. I get to use a little bit of my bachelor's degree, which is nice. But it's called the Cool Jobs Podcast, and it kind of the idea sprung from. I meet really interesting people who do really different and interesting things in Asheville, and so through my work, that I wanted to be able to have a way of sharing that work with people, because there are so many things that people may not think about whenever they come to a city or whenever they're thinking about their career, and so the opportunity to share some of that information through an interview process was really exciting. So. For example, we've had I've interviewed the Red Power Ranger, for example. So he is a UNC Asheville alum, and so he was in town, and we were able to talk about what it was like to be a professional actor and be on the Power Rangers in the 90s. Wow. And I interviewed a professional water slide designer. He talked about his education and going from architecture school at Notre Dame to building water slides and water parks in Abu Dhabi. Wow. And so there's been a professional ice cream taster who is the owner of the Hop ice cream, and we've a wellness tour operator, someone who takes people to the tops of mountains and does yoga after hiking in and out. I mean, it's a really interesting way of connecting the dots on careers that people have never heard of or never even thought about doing, and so it's been a really exciting process for me to build that podcast for sure.
Well, I haven't heard the Power Rangers one, so I'm going to definitely have to go back and take a listen to that. So curious to hear about how somebody started at UNCA, because you said he was an alum, yep. and now is an actor for something so something ingrained in so many children out there. So that's super cool.
Absolutely.
Tell us where we can find the podcast and where we can listen.
Sure, it's on Spotify, Apple, and Google Play. Most of the podcast platforms. The Cool Jobs Podcast, if you search for it that way, I should be in there. The logo is a blue logo with a little bulldog on it, because the UNC Asheville is the Bulldogs, and so we have a little logo there for it. And there's quite a bit of content in there, so hopefully be ones that folks can listen over time. Absolutely. As well.
Yeah. Well, everyone, we're going to definitely put the link to the podcast in the description below. So if you've liked Career Quest and you want to even dig deeper and learn about even more cool jobs that are out there, please link to that. Thank you, David, for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.